Hooray! Yay!
Hooray!
I love those kids.
I know. I wonder who they are. They're not my kids.
No, it's not us either.
No.
Now, welcome, folks. Welcome to Two Funny Astronauts. Who are you again?
I'm Garrett.
All right.
This is Mass. Mike Massimino. We're your two funny astronauts today. We'll be your two funny astronauts today.
Yeah.
Do we have any specials?
No. We're the only two funny astronauts we know. It doesn't get any better than this, folks. This is
Which
it.
is sad.
Sad to say. Because remember, we're not saying we're funny people. We're just funny for astronauts. So hold us to that standard.
Low bar.
Yeah.
But
so
today we're going to talk.
Yeah, go ahead. What are we talking about today, Garrett? What are we talking about?
Today we're going to talk about a very topical, a timely subject.
Right.
Derek Jeter's Hall of Fame induction happening right now as we speak.
Yeah, that's right. It's going on.
That's right. Yes.
We're time stamping. This is actually September the 8th, folks.
That's right.
So Jeter's getting. Joe Torre said he was going up there for that. Who else is going in? Marvin Miller's going in,
and what's his name from the Phillies?
Ray Halladay, is he going in the pitcher?
No.
Ryan Howard, is he going in?
No, the Reds, not the Phillies, the Reds.
All right, why don't we just make
colors? I just want to point out the similar color uniforms. But the guy from the Reds, what's his name?
From what era? We should probably just Google this.
Yeah.
Is it Barry Larkin?
Oh, I think it is Barry Larkin. No. Barry Larkin is. I think they.
He should be.
That's why the Reds didn't pick Jeter, right? Because they had Larkin.
I don't know that story, but.
But anyway, that's not really what we're talking about today.
No, but I'm looking.
I do have a good Derek Jeter story, but we'll save that for another time. You know, in October, Mass, we should do some episodes about baseball.
We should. I'm trying to see who is in there. Who's in there today? I'm looking it up. Anybody know?
Larry Walker.
Larry Walker. Okay, he's not a Red.
I think I just made that up. Is that
you
true?
Made that up. All right, stop making stuff up. All right, let's see who we got.
All right,
it's coming. I got it. Ted Simmons, who was a Cardinal, and Larry Walker. Larry Walker, who I think.
I thought that was the guy on Kiss.
Yeah, I don't know that. Marvin Miller, that's pretty cool. And Derek Jeter. Awesome. Okay, cool.
That was a lot of work for a little throwaway joke I just made. I was just kidding. That's not what we're talking about today. We're not talking about that.
All right.
We're talking about the Inspiration 4 launch.
That's what we're talking about, which is also timely because that is planned for right about this time this podcast should air. So it hasn't gone up yet, folks. By the time we recorded this, a week earlier, so next week. But we're thinking that you're going to be listening to this right after it launched.
Probably the day after.
Yeah, but you're right. So that's what.
If it goes well,
but who knows?
If it goes well, because otherwise we're going to play something else. But it hasn't happened yet, and we're hoping it goes well for these guys. Yes, we are.
And so what do you know about this, Garrett? I ran into these folks down at the SpaceX, the Crew. I guess it was the Crew 2 launch. Mm-hmm. When Megan went up and Shane and Aki and Toma went up, SpaceX had a very nice reception, and I was there, and these 4 people were there, and I was introduced to them briefly. I didn't really get a chance. I talked to one of them for a little bit, but tell us about it. You know a little bit more about this.
The guy that is behind the whole thing is from Jersey, so I immediately
from Jersey. Did you go to high school with this guy?
No, he's like way younger than us, man. But he's a billionaire.
How did he get
rich?
Money. How did he get rich so quick? He's like in his 30s, right? He's like 35.
Some kind of internet thing.
What's his name? His name is
some kind of finance thing.
Jared
Isaacman.
Jared Isaacman. He seems like a nice guy.
He's a nice guy, and he's got a lot of aviation experience. So he flies around. I think he's got a MiG-29 or something that he
flies around in a MiG-29?
Yeah, he's got like one of the only Western like privately held one of these jets, and he does air shows and
Must
stuff.
Be tough to maintain that one, I would imagine, don't you think? Getting people to work on that airplane?
Yeah, no, you can't take it to like the local mechanic.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. But anyway, so it's him, and he teamed up with St. Jude Hospital. So they're doing this. The whole point of this is, and I think it's smart the way they're going about this Inspiration 4 thing, because I think that the bigger issue here that there's been some kind of backlash. I think there's been some backlash against these missions, especially after Branson and Bezos, because they were so like in your face about it. And I think there's some backlash about these rich people going on joyrides is how a lot of people are looking at this kind of thing. What do you think about that, Mass? Do you think that there's some validity there?
I think that the good thing, looking back on now, we've a couple months since we've had those, since the Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos went up. I think it was great that it got focused on what's happening with the space program today. So that was good. And but these what's going on now? But it wasn't all, even in those cases. Jeff Bezos had Wally Funk fly with him, and it wasn't just rich people. And I think that's what we'll see. I think some very generous rich people, like our friend here, is it Jared Isaacman? Jared's his first name, Mr. Isaacman. I think he's apparently very generous. He's doing it for charity, and he's paying for the whole crew to go. So he's being very very generous
in the process. They're also, I think the claim anyway is that they're going to raise more money in charitable donations than he's spending on the mission. So it's a net win for the hospital and for a really good cause, pediatric, cancer prevention and whatnot. Yeah. And he's taking the pediatric cancer survivor with him, one of his crewmates.
She's fairly young, isn't she?
I think they're being very smart about it. Have you seen that they got a Netflix show? They also did.
I know. You were telling me about that. We were off the air earlier. You were telling me about that, and I haven't seen it, but I'm going to go. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see.
I watched the first episode the other night, and it was good. It was well done. I actually did some. I taped some stuff for them for that show. I don't know if they're going to use it all or any of it. It might end up on a cutting room floor, but they're being very smart about it. They're being a lot more kind of media savvy, I guess I would say, and I like how Isaacman is really using it and that's the cool thing about these guys doing these private missions is you can make of it whatever you want. So we have a friend, Eitan Stibe, who's flying on this upcoming Axiom mission. And he's going to be the second Israeli to go to space after Ilan Ramon. He was friends with Ilan Ramon. They flew together in the Israeli Air Force. Yeah, and we got to know him, through Rona and everything after Ilan's accident and his death. But he's doing great things in Israel for education, for science, and he is really making an impact with all these kids, all these school kids all throughout the whole country. Yeah, and that's great. And but the thing is, here's the thing philosophically I don't get is there a requirement? Like, did they have to, or what's wrong if they just want to buy a ticket and go and have fun? I mean, for example, when a billionaire buys like $100 million yacht, is that a better use of their money than paying for a ride to space? I mean, what's the difference? Why? We live in this free capitalist country. Shouldn't you be able to do whatever you want with your billions, provided it doesn't hurt anybody?
I think so. I think though in this case, but I don't. Well, you're talking about people. I think you're talking about people criticizing them that they could be doing different things with their money. Is that what you're saying? I think that I do think that hopefully, and I think what is the case, they're not, as you said, with Eitan, and I think also with what Jacob is doing coming up. It's more than just doing it for the thrill of it. I think there's a purpose in it. That there's a reason to go, and whether it's research or raising awareness or for a cause or whatever it might be, I do think that what we'll find with a lot of these people, and I think people at that level, the ones that you mentioned Eitan, for example, is a very generous, thoughtful person and wants to share and make a difference in the world with the money he has. And I think this is a way of doing that by spreading the inspiration that he's had with what he's able to spread with the younger people throughout Israel, and being the second Israeli. Really, I look at him as an Israeli astronaut, kind of like Elon was. Right. Not real. I mean, of course, it's much different, but he's the next Israeli to go. So, I think that's okay. I mean, I don't think we can tell them how to spend their money. I think I want to. I think they can do whatever they want, of course. But what you mentioned with this Inspiration 4 flight, they're doing it for charity and doing it in a really nice way. And one of his crewmates, this young lady is a cancer survivor. She's pretty young, isn't she? Is she like the teenager, or early 20s or something? How old is? Do you know how old she is?
There's some is she going to be the youngest American? I think she's going to be the youngest American to launch into space. Yeah.
So she's getting. I think that's a great part of it. And who else is going with him? He's got
Dr. Cian Proctor, if I'm saying that right. I hope I don't. And he's got. I should have paid more attention when I watched the Netflix. And this guy Chris. The other guy's Chris. I think he's an engineer. But they don't introduce Chris and Cian until episode 2. I haven't seen episode 2 yet, so don't. Dr. Proctor, they call her.
But he's footing the bill. Jacob is paying for everybody to go on this.
Jared,
I'm sorry. Jared is paying for everybody to go on this, and he's raising a lot of money for St. Jude's.
Yeah, and I do think that's great. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's an opportunity because anything you do that draws a lot of attention, you have an opportunity to use that platform, and you can use this platform to do a lot of good, which is what Eitan is doing, is what Jared is doing.
Right.
But it's not what all of them are doing, right? And so I guess my question for you, Mass, is, do you have to? I mean, if you were one of these guys, I could see, like, I would recommend, and I think it's admirable if you do decide to use it. But if you decide to just go because you just want to go look out the window and take pictures and listen to music, is that wrong? Is it wrong?
No,
for
I think that's fine. I think
that's
being a tourist.
Yeah,
and that's going there to be a tourist, and I think
is that a bad thing?
No, I don't think so. Not at all.
Yeah. I don't think so either.
Yeah. Why not?
I think they're being held to a standard that's kind of unfair, I guess, is where I'm getting at here. I mean,
you have to do something.
If you take a family vacation to Paris. And you buy coach class tickets. I know you travel first class, but maybe
I have long legs. No,
I don't have that excuse. Yeah. So if you do that and you spend a couple $1,000s, you could do a lot. You could spend that money helping out people who are less fortunate, right? But does that mean that does that mean like all tourism is bad?
The way you describe it, yes. Now I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm feeling guilty about driving up to Connecticut next weekend.
Yeah.
I can't even enjoy vacation anymore now with this.
You can't. Yeah. If I go to the beach now, I'm feeling like guilty. I should be.
Can't you spend your money on other things that are more important?
Or your time. I should be building habitats for humanity or something instead of like lying on the beach.
Well,
I don't know. We're getting very deep into the heavy philosophic. Maybe this is maybe we should change the topic.
No, I think it's all right. I think.
So who's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame?
I think there's going to be.
Is it Larry Walker?
I think Larry Walker. Is Larry Walker. But I think it's like different categories of going to space. I think what we did as government employees it was very competitive to get in there. We didn't have to pay money to go. It was our career. But we went for our country, for engineering, for exploration, for science, to do that, and then, but other people, this is a whole new reason to go. I think that in the case of Eitan, he's kind of going for his country, I think, and for education and exploration and those things. But I think others are just going to go to take a look out the window, and I think that's all right. He'll be at least supporting the program by paying for their tickets. So I think that's okay.
That's a very important point that I did want to get to, which people don't realize that unlike blowing your money on buying a new yacht, if you have that kind of money, when you spend your money to buy a ticket and go on one of these private space flights, then believe it or not, it benefits the U.S. taxpayer. Okay, it benefits NASA because what this does is it's much more expensive, and NASA would have to fit 100% of the bill if SpaceX were only flying like 1 or 2 missions a year on Crew Dragon. You still got to pay everybody's annual salary. You still got to maintain. You still got to pay for mission control, the launch pad. You got to paint the thing. Take care of the concrete. All that stuff's going to happen. And if NASA's the only one paying for it, then guess what? NASA has to pay everything.
That's right.
But now,
which means
these guys are helping out.
The taxpayer's paying everything.
The taxpayer's paying everything. But now, when you have these guys, and so what if they're just going for to look out the window and take pictures? So what? They're paying the bill, and guess what? That means that NASA doesn't have to pay everything. Now they pay part of it, and NASA benefits, so the taxpayer pays less. And there's a big benefit. Not only that, but every time we fly the rocket, we get more information about safety. We can make it more safe. So when NASA astronauts fly in the same rocket, they got more data points to compare to. They can make the thing safer. There's a whole bunch of reasons why flying why it's much better for rich people to blow their money on space than blow it on like some stupid clothing or some Fabergé eggs or something. Who cares about the stupid eggs unless they're Cadbury cream eggs, in which case they're delicious.
You can't even eat those. You can't even eat those Fabergé eggs, from what I understand. Yeah.
You can't even scramble them.
Yeah. At least the Easter egg. Yeah. You can't even scramble them. You try. You don't have much left.
So you I dare you to try to make a Fabergé omelet.
Yeah, a very, very expensive omelet.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me, and that's the way this whole thing was set up, I think, was to stimulate economic growth. And for the government, it pays off because people like you describe who are working for these companies, and these companies are making money. Guess what? They pay taxes too. So the U.S. government, wants us to make money, so we can pay taxes to keep the government going too. Because you make money, you get part of it back. Yeah,
the Russians that make those Fabergé eggs, they don't pay taxes.
Yeah. Right. We want. So I think anyone that wants to go for whatever experience that they want to have, I think that it's okay.
Yeah, and that's a point that NASA's doing this. NASA's doing this on purpose. They're no dummies. Okay, the rocket scientists are not dummies. They said, hey, maybe if we get rich people and other people to go, they will pay part of the thing, and then we benefit because it's cheaper for us, and we could do more with our budget. They did this on purpose. They saw this coming, and they're like, ooh, guess what happened? This was on purpose. So stop your complaining. You're saving money as a U.S. taxpayer. Shut up. Stop moaning about these rich people.
Yeah, and the more of them go, the more access, and the price eventually will come down, and
that's right.
So on. So
there's that too.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we talked about this. We've talked about this before. I think where it's the same thing in aviation. In the very beginning days of the airlines,
right?
When the jet set was like jetting off in their airplanes, that was only the very wealthy people that can afford it.
Right.
Now the jet set is everybody that goes on Southwest and throws punches at their flight attendants. It's now you're the jet set. So hang in there; it'll come around. And stop your moaning.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yes.
But let me ask you more about what these guys are doing, because what's different about this one too, this Inspiration 4 with Jared and his three friends, his crewmates, is there's no professional astronaut on board, right? And they're going to orbit. So on the Bezos mission, it was more or less 4 people without any space experience or not very much training, but they were only going suborbital, right? They just went to parabola. With Branson, you had our friends, or some of our pilot friends up front, and they had a lot of training. So they were flying a vehicle that required a lot of skill to do that. I would imagine a lot of training.
But the people sitting in the back didn't have to do anything.
No, people trained to do anything. It was like an airliner, right? I mean, people in the front have the training, and people in the back are less so. And then with the private astronaut missions that you mentioned, with up to now with SpaceX and so on. That they've done in the private astronaut missions coming up, we'll have one experienced crew member, one experienced flyer, a space flyer, but also on the ones that we've seen with our friends that have gone up on the missions so far with SpaceX, is not as much crew interaction with those, right? So it's a little bit easier.
Well, the vehicle is very different, which really permits a lot of these other alternative operations. And so the vehicle is much more automated. The software does a lot of the stuff that you and I trained and sat in a simulator and did all those sims where, flight control string 2 is down. Mm-hmm. We got to avoid a force fight, so I got to physically turn off the bad one too, and be ready for the next failure.
It was nuts. Yeah, no, it was crazy.
All that stuff that we had to do. Now, it's all done by algorithms.
Right.
All that stuff is like they know if the channel 2 is bad to turn it off. The software just does it. So that frees up the crew to not have to do all that training, and they still have. But in Dragon, they still have some higher level control. And the Axiom crew, which is flying a professional astronaut, it's our buddy Mike Lopez Alegria is going to command that mission in early 22. They're going to go up to the space station, and LA and his pilot are being trained. This guy Larry Connors are being trained just pretty much exactly the same as Bob and Doug were trained, or any other of the NASA crews are trained. To have the full and enjoying pretty much the full capabilities of that vehicle. Inspiration 4 is different.
Yeah,
because other than Jared, they don't really have any kind of experience, and so they're being trained on basically how to take care of themselves, how to put on their spacesuit, what to do in an emergency, how to use a fire extinguisher, how to use the bathroom, very important, and things like this, but that's it. The whole rest of the operation of the vehicle, which is not going to go to the space station, just going to orbit the Earth for about 4 days, that's all completely automatic or controlled by experts on the ground.
So is that the case for like when? The difference between what our friends have done so far, going to the space station with Mike LA and our other friends are going to be doing in January, the private astronaut mission, is the difference obviously a big difference in what they're doing is they're going to dock at space station. But as far as the launch sequence and the orbital phase of the vehicle when it's not docked and the entry and all that, is that pretty much the same thing? Is the same amount of training that our friends got, or is it because? Is it for the Inspiration 4 guys?
I don't know for sure because I wasn't directly involved with the final decisions or anything, but I think that they're getting, first of all, obviously they don't have to get any training that relates to docking or rendezvousing with the space station. And I'm pretty sure that the rest of the time, look, on those NASA missions with our friends and professional NASA astronauts and even the mission with Bob and Doug, although they had some test objectives, so they took manual control briefly just to make sure it worked.
Yeah, it was a test flight.
But if everything is working, then really even the NASA missions there's not much for the crew to do other than monitor the automatic systems, because the nominal the going in plan is to let the computers do everything. Right.
Yeah.
And it's got to be able to work because we get the same vehicle is used to deliver cargo up to the space station with nobody inside, except for maybe some mice. And the mice ain't flying the thing. Right?
Yeah. And that thing docks as well.
That's right. It docks the same way. So it's got to work.
Right.
But I guess the difference is that the NASA guys are trained in more depth to get involved if things start going wrong. Whereas I think the Inspiration 4 guys probably have a more limited amount of ability to intercede should something go awry.
Right.
And I don't know I don't know exactly to what degree that difference is, but I suspect there is some difference in that level of crew capability. Yeah.
And they're going to they're not going to dock to space station like the private astronaut, like Axiom will do, and like our professional astronaut friends who go to space. They're not going to go on the SpaceX vehicle. They're not going to go anywhere near the space station. They're going. What are they? They're going up for how long? 4 days.
4 days. One really cool thing they have is because they're not going to the space station.
Yes.
They took off at the top of the Dragon. There is a docking system that has this big mechanical thing where it actually links up to the space station, docks and connects and seals. And what they're doing is they took that off and they replaced it with a big glass dome.
Now you're talking.
Yeah. And so they have this big, and I think it's going to be even better than the cupola, because the cupola at least has got a frame. And this is just a pure glass dome, like a big fishbowl. And they're going to be able to stick their heads up in that thing and look around, and that's going to be pretty awesome.
How many people can get their heads inside of that thing at once? Because that's what everyone's going to want to do.
Yeah, probably 2. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking maybe 2. I mean, you could really squish and get more in there, but really, it's kind of like probably comfortably be one at a time kind of thing.
It's going to be like
they got 4 days, and what else are they going to do? I know that they're taking movies, so they're going to be, if they get bored of. as you're waiting your turn to get in there, you can watch some Netflix, I guess.
So they can watch themselves. So their objective, is we talked about this earlier. They're raising money for St. Jude's Hospital, which is just a great thing. And but what else? What do they have? Do you know of any other objectives they have? I guess you should watch this Netflix show. But they're going to be making movies and doing and looking out the window. Is there any science on board or anything? Do you know? Or
that's a good question. I wonder if Dr. Proctor might have a little science going on, but I
would think.
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about that. To be honest with you.
So, but they're going to be able to take some good look. I think the problem with looking out that window is going to be who's going to, it's my turn. There could be a problem there. It's going to be like sharing the viewfinder, the Statue of Liberty. Hey, I want to look. No, I want to look.
There's something else very important. I don't think you could be in that window and also use the toilet at the same time. Well, one person can. Yeah. I think you might be able to stick your head in that window and stick your other parts elsewhere, right, and do that.
All right, so let's get down to the real. Let's get down to the real stuff here. All right, so 4 people on board that thing. First of all, is there any other window beside the dome? Do you have on the hatch or something? Is there?
No. So there's a big dome, and then there are 2 really big windows down on either side of the hatch. The main hatch. Yeah.
So
they're nice windows. Those are big, nice windows. So they can all. You can almost have one for everybody.
And what's the max crew size of that vehicle? Is it 6, Garrett?
We actually built it. We built it to be able to take 7.
Okay.
But boy, that would be tight quarters.
So having 4 in there gives you a little bit of room to move around.
Yeah.
Would you say it's about how big's the volume? Is it about the size? It's bigger than the Soyuz. Is it like the Soyuz with the orbital module? Is it like the mid deck of the shuttle? About how much room
it's comparable to the Soyuz with the orbital module. It's bigger certainly bigger than the Soyuz descent module,
right?
And probably comparable to the descent module plus the orbital module in the Soyuz. Yeah.
All right, so you have a little bit of time, a little bit of room. Everybody's got windows. That's good. But what is the story? Do they have a toilet and a galley inside of this thing? What do you got in there? You designed the spaceship. What do you got?
There's actually no galley to speak of. There's no hot food or hot beverages.
So you got to bring all your water
for the NASA mission. Maybe for these billionaires, maybe they'll put in a little, a Kerug.
Espresso maker.
But the original design only had cold drinks, because the idea was that you only be in this thing for at most a day,
right?
And then you can be on the space station
longer.
Well, you get a nice hot meal and everything.
Right, what are they going to eat? They have no food warmer, nothing?
No,
we don't know.
Like I said, they might have modified it for these guys.
Right.
I'm not privy to that, but I can tell you the base design and the design that Bob and Doug flew and that Crew 1, Crew 2 flew at, it was just cold drinks. Right. And
now, what about the toilet? I know Soyuz had a toilet on it.
Yes.
And, of course, we had one on the shuttle. What do you have for a toilet on the,
you got a toilet.
The SpaceX thing. You put what is it? What does it look like?
It's a can, literally.
Is it like this, the ISS toilet?
It's similar to the ISS toilet. So there's a can it's located above the hatch that you get into when you're on the launch pad and you climb in. Right. There's that hatch, and it's above that in the ceiling, kind of. Now, obviously, in zero gravity, it doesn't matter. You could on the ceiling, on the floor, it doesn't matter.
Is it like a toilet sticking out of the wall?
No, it's behind a compartment, and then it comes out, and there's a little can that you sit on, and then there's like a little tube with a funnel that you do for urine. The poop goes into the can, and that's that.
Now, is this something you encourage people to use on their way to the space station? Or do
no,
you say probably
most people are never going to use this thing. And the Axiom guys, I actually met up with half of the Axiom 1 crew last week, and we were talking about this. Uh-huh. They have no anticipation of pooping in that thing.
No.
Because at first, you know this, Mike, the first day or two, you don't want to poop. It's like going on a camping trip. Everything kind of locks up, right?
Yes. You clean yourself out as best you can.
Yeah.
And you hold it.
You hold
it for that. Well, I think we didn't have to, on our flight, so on the shuttle, we didn't have to worry about that. But because if you had a poop, you had a toilet there almost immediately. Yeah. But you don't want to, on a Soyuz, you probably didn't want to.
I think in all the Soyuz flights that had a NASA astronaut on there, as far as I know, there's only been 2 astronauts that ever pooped in a Soyuz toilet, and I am one of them.
Really?
Yes.
You couldn't hold it?
No. It was when our toilet broke on the space station.
Okay. You weren't in the, but I mean, you weren't on your way.
We had to go to our backup, and the backup where we had a toilet.
You didn't fly on the Soyuz, right? You flew a shuttle both your flights.
Right. But I went into the Soyuz while it was docked to the ISS.
Did anybody know? Did you tell anybody?
I told them.
Did you leave it in there?
No. Actually, there's a whole funny story about that. So we're getting ready to go home and right as we're about to do the going away ceremony, and I'm going to get into with Mark Kelly and Ken Ham was the pilot, and we had Ron Garan was up there. We all were about to get into. Karen Nyberg was on that crew. Aki, we're all about to get into Discovery and come home. Mike Fossum and we're having this going away ceremony, and that my Russian commander pulls me over to the side. But I thought he was going to do some really like emotional, like give me a big hug, like
Garrett,
hey,
I love you. Yeah,
Garrett, I love you. We've flown in space. We're like brothers now. We've been here for 2 months together, just us. And you're leaving, and I'm so sad. I expected something really teary and emotional. And he takes me all the way over to the Russian segment of the space station, and I'm waiting for this like really emotional conversation. I geared up.
Maybe get flowers or something.
Yeah, and he did give me a gift. He reaches behind a panel and he pulls out the bag with my poop in it. And he says, I was hoping you were going to take this with you.
He was doing it.
So I go back.
He was doing it to be funny?
No. He really wanted that out of his ship. And I don't blame him. Who wants a big pile of shit later?
Wait, so it was left in the Soyuz?
No, it was hanging in the we were storing it in like part of the Russian part of the space station in the storage area. It was contained. It was all contained and wrapped up, but he hands me this bag and I'm like, "Oh, thanks. But all right, I get it. I'll take it." And so we go back to the ceremony and I have to give a speech now on the camera with the 10 school kids in the Kentucky elementary school listening.
Yeah.
And I'm about to give and so I didn't want to give a speech holding a bag of shit. So I gave it to Hawk, Ken Ham, who's the pilot.
Yeah.
And who was a buddy of mine. I said, Hawk, do me a favor, hold this, but whatever you do, do not open it. Don't look inside. All right, I'll explain later. Yeah. And we took it onto the shuttle, put it in the wet trash, and we disposed of it for him.
So he couldn't put it in one of the containers, one of the space station toilets.
We were gonna put it into one of the Progress ships, and with the rest of our trash, and just that's how we get rid of most of the trash.
But when they kept, so the poop in the station toilet, doesn't it get capped inside of the can?
Yes, it does.
Why
and
can't you
it
throw
ends up
that in the one of the toilets that was used?
It gets contained in the metal pedestal of the space station toilet. It actually comes apart. And it gets capped and sealed, and then it goes into the Progress that burns up. It's got no heat shield. And that's what we were going to do with this. But this was in the Soyuz toilet, so it didn't have the big metal can. It was just like a bag.
And you couldn't put it in the other can. You couldn't just go.
We could. It wouldn't fit in the other can, but we were. The
must
plan
have been
was,
a really big poop. You don't understand this poop.
Well, the toilet was broken
for days.
Yeah, the toilet was broken for like 3 days before we came up with this plan to use the Soyuz. So I was backed up.
The story makes sense. Of why you couldn't fit anywhere. It couldn't go in the other toilet. Use the other one. Garrett, go use the toilet in the Soyuz. We can't have it. Wow. Now it makes sense.
Like an anaconda.
Yeah, all of a sudden they got rid of that, and the center of gravity of the space station changed and everything because of the poop got out of it.
Oh, man. The point was that we would have thrown it away in the Progress, but the shuttle was leaving first, so better to get rid of it sooner. That was Sergei's point.
But the idea there is that that toilet that they had on these short-term vehicles are not necessarily as robust, I would think, to handle. It's kind of like a porta potty, right? Versus a regular toilet.
But it actually worked fine. Actually, even that Soyuz toilet I prefer to the rigmarole we had in the shuttle. The shuttle toilet was like some kind of ridiculous contraption with all those straps that looked like some kind of like S&M machine or something.
Where's your mind?
That thing was ridiculous. It was way over designed, way over engineered.
It's true. It was really expensive too. That's a whole nother topic, though, if we haven't covered that yet. But all right. But these folks on this Inspiration 4, they're going to have a toilet they can use.
Yes.
For 4 days. That's reasonable.
Yeah, we had to build one just in case. Like I said, there were 2 American astronauts that used the Soyuz toilet. I'm one in a fit of dire need, but the other one was actually somebody that was going up to the space station and had to go on day 1, which is unusual, very unusual. But somebody else had. So just in case that happens, you got to have something. So we got something in the Dragon, and these Inspiration 4 guys will use it for 4 days.
But that's my point. It's just to have something, can be, use this hat in an emergency. Yeah. To have something where you're going to go for 4 days, you need something a little better than just something.
I am sure that these billionaires have pooped in much more luxurious environs than what they're going to have on the Dragon. But it's going to work. It's going to be okay.
All right. And then the urine, they have urine collection. You dump the urine on that thing, or do you collect it and save it? Do you know? On your spaceship?
No, I think we collect it and save it. I don't think we dump it.
Okay.
If I remember right.
So that takes care of that. And the food is all bring your own. I mean, it's like
now, that's interesting because they won't have to bring on the NASA missions.
Bring it ready to eat. Yes,
they have to bring NASA food.
Right,
that was part of the contract. I think it was to keep like the food lab in business down there. So they have to bring all the usual.
We have the concessions. It's a union thing. We got the concessions at all the ballparks and spaceships. Go somewhere else.
Anybody who's ever run any kind of venue will tell you. The concessions are what it's all about.
They're like the food truck guys. Get off of my.
But on the Inspiration 4 mission, that requirement is lifted. So I think they're going to have actually some really good food. Because I know our chefs at SpaceX were amped up from the very beginning to make some space food. So I think they're going to get some really good stuff.
So wait a minute, SpaceX has their own chefs for the spaceship? It's not NASA?
Well, they're chefs for our we have a restaurant there for the employees. Elon was really smart. We're in Hawthorne, and like the nearest restaurant is you got to drive. So all the employees during lunch would get in their cars and drive through LA and come all the way back. That would take like an hour and a half. He's like, that's too long for them to be away from their desk. I'm putting like a world-class restaurant right in the main building so that nobody will leave. You come down 15 minutes later, you're done, and you don't even like have to line up to pay. You use your badge to swipe, and it just comes off your paycheck. And so there's no line to pay. It's all about efficiency. You say it's just get them fed, get them back to work.
Price? You don't have to put the thing in. Is it all you can eat?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you get charged per meal, I think, if I remember. No, it depends. There's different options. It's complicated. It's like a tier system.
Oh, it sounds more desirable every second. I didn't know.
But it's really good. The food there was I missed that. Those lunches were like delicious. I ate well.
Let's go there. We go there. Garrett's going to give me a tour of the cafeteria. I don't want to see a spaceship.
Oh, yeah. No.
Let's go
see a cafe. Don't call it a cafeteria. Elon gets mad.
Cafe. Sorry, I didn't mean it.
We actually wanted to have like table waiter service, and then we pointed out that was going to be difficult. But it's like I'm telling you, this is like a really good restaurant.
All right, so he's going to have good food for these folks, but it's all going to be. Maybe they do have some kind of heat, food warmer or something on there because they're not going to be able to rehydrate food that easily. But you do have to make drinks, right? You have to have a water somehow fill your.
Yeah, we actually just had bags of water on the NASA missions
already filled on the ground.
It'll be interesting. Maybe we'll find out. Yeah. So tune in and watch, and we'll try to. Yeah. I'm sure
these are all questions that we need to find out about this. Yes. How do you do these basic things? But they're going to be up there for 4 days, orbiting our planet, taking photos. Sleeping, probably no exercise device for him on there. Do you think? What are they going to do?
No, but you don't need that for 4 days.
Probably not. No.
Yeah.
So doing that.
There are a lot of things that happen to you. You can get if you don't exercise, you can lose bone and muscle, but not in 4 days. 4 days.
Yeah, 4 days. This should be fine. So, well, cool. Well, we'll see how this one goes. I think it's kind of interesting. To me, what strikes me about all of this is that. This is the first time 4 people who are really not astronauts are going on mission for that amount of time and going into orbit. Right? They're not just it's not just a suborbital ride. It's an orbital flight with a crew that are not career astronauts.
I do think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond psychologically and physiologically. You know, a lot of people don't feel great for the first couple of days.
Right.
So we're going to see what happens with that, but I don't know how much we're going to find out because they could cover up those cameras. You know, I don't know. I think if it starts going a little sideways, I don't think they're going to share that, and they're not going to put that on Netflix. so I don't know if we'll ever know, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, we wish them good luck and look forward to seeing what happens.
And if you're watching the show at home right now, it means it went well.
Yeah, that's a good sign. All right, Garrett, what else we have to say here? I think we're about wrapped up on this one. What do you think?
I think that's probably enough. But
all right, man.
So go Inspiration 4.
Go
Yay!
Inspiration 4 crew. St. Jude's Hospital. Great.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe to.
I mean, to St. Jude's Hospital, yes, you should. It's a good cause, but also to this show.
Yes, yeah. Thanks for listening. All right, Garrett, let's wrap it up and go home.
All right, Mass. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, buddy. And let's see what happens with this Inspiration 4. Thanks for listening, folks.